Okay.
All right. Good evening, everybody.
Hello, everybody.
We are here from WCONA Live, coming to you from Prospect, Pennsylvania, and
Wheeling, West Virginia, of course.
Excellent. Yeah, I know they went that away. We're really happy to be here tonight. We have a wonderful reader. We've got Jeremy B. Jones for you.
Yes.
How are you this evening, Christina?
I am very good. It's a little rainy and haily here in Wheeling, but we've needed the rain, so I'm glad to hear it. How about Prospect? What's it like over there?
It is crisp and autumnal with the smell of wood smoke in the air. It's like a Norman Rockwell evening here in Prospect, at least in an olfactory sense.
Excellent. That's what you.
Yeah. So we are excited to bring you Jeremy Jones.
Tell us about our writer.
About what?
Yes.
Tell
us about our writer tonight.
Oh, yes, that's exactly what I'm doing.
Yes.
Sorry. Our reader tonight is Jeremy B. Jones. He's the author of Bearwallow, a personal history of a mountain homeland from Blair in 2014. Won the 2014 Appalachian Book of the Year, awarded nonfiction. Was also awarded gold in the 2015 Independent Publisher Awards in memoir. His essays have appeared in Best American as a notable and were published in Oxford American, the Iowa Review, and Brevity, among others. Jeremy has an MFA from the University of Iowa and currently serves as an associate professor of English at Western Carolina University in his native North Carolina. He also serves as the series co-editor for In Place, a literary nonfiction book series from Vandalia Press, the creative imprint of WVU Press. And he is also an absolutely outstanding giver of workshops, which is where we met at Lincoln Memorial University's Mountain Heritage Literary Festival. And I sat in on Jeremy's workshop, and it was amazing. I actually wrote an essay that ended up in Hippocampus, based on the wonderful workshop that Jeremy led. So welcome to WCONA Live.
Thanks for having me. I feel so alive.
We are excited to have you tonight.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to read some words, and then I think we'll talk.
Okay, and we will go away, and we'll be back when we've heard words.
So I'm supposed to, I think, plug my book, which I will do by holding it up, but I'm not actually going to read from it. But it is out in paperback this spring. You should buy it or make your library buy it. But instead, I wanted to read something new. This is from the manuscript I'm working on now. And I'll just give a little bit of context and then give a short reading from it. I found or learned about some enciphered diaries a few years ago. And I learned not long after that those diaries had been my great-great-great-great-grandfather's. And he kept them in code from 1808 to 1859. In 1975, someone found them. And the short version of the story is that eventually, they landed in the hands of an NSA analyst, a cryptanalyst, who had retired and deciphered, broke the code of the diaries, and transcribed all 50 years worth of them. And I learned about them, and I've been working for a few years now on this book about that man who's sort of been laid bare in front of me now, my ancestor who kind of, in some ways, made me, but who also just kind of laid everything out on these pages and then hid them in code, which has now been uncovered. Naturally, a lot of the book is becoming about legacy and DNA and all the things that make us. So I'm going to read a short section from that manuscript. It doesn't actually involve the diarist at this point, but that helps explain, I think, why I'm thinking about some of these questions. We're on the coast when my son asks about sex. He's 7 and impossibly precocious. I'm 37 with my pants around my ankles, changing out of a wet swimsuit in a rented house in South Carolina. In truth, he's not asking about sex. He's asking about anatomy. In truth, he's pointing at my balls and saying, Why are you bigger down there? Sarah, my wife, and this boy's mother is in the bathroom, watching this unfold in the mirror like one might watch a particularly clumsy cat scale a wall, hoping for the best. Oh, here? I ask, pointing to one of the cat's paws slips. Not long after having Abe, this 7-year-old, looking at my crotch, Sarah and I agreed to use anatomical terms with our kids. No wee-wees or TTs here. We're a people of penises and vaginas. So when he nods, I give it to him. Testicles. He likes the sound of the word, tries it out a few times. It's like a roller coaster hanging on that first syllable for a beat before rushing down, but then he regains focus. What does it do? When Sarah was pregnant, I told her I didn't fear dirty diapers or runny noses. I feared teenage hormones. I feared messing up so much that my son climbed on a Harley at age 13, crossed out his dad tattoo, and roared off for good. I'd like to think this is why I started backing into the corner while trying to pull up my pants. It wasn't that I was a coward, but that I was aware of my power, aware of all that could go wrong. I was being selfless, really, humble. I looked to Sarah, hoping to pass the baton just before I shrank into nothingness, but I knew everything I needed in the flash of her eyes in the mirror. Your turn. Yesterday, after finding his aunt's pads in her room, Abe laced Sarah with questions, starting with, why does she wear a diaper? Then he learned it all. The bleeding, the shedding of the uterus lining, the monthly wherewithal stashed in the bathroom. Does grandma still bleed? He wanted to know. And then, so she can't have babies? This was the precise moment when we learned he is smarter than we are. So yes, it is my turn. I stand up straight and off we go. The sperm and the egg, the great mystery. It's not so bad, really. He knows about the egg already. He witnessed his little brother change from a bump in Sarah to a little person currently singing Pop Goes the Weasel on the bed. And I'm feeling better already as I round the home stretch. We make sperm, women make eggs, two become one. But, he says, and I sense more than I know what's coming, like a bird before a storm. But, he says, how does the doctor put the sperm with the egg? Oh, a doctor doesn't do it. I pull up my shorts. We'll talk about that part later. Then how does it get there? I button my fly as fast as I can. We'll talk about it later. I'm a heartbeat away from bribing him with candy. Does the boy, pee it in the girl's vagina? Then I give up. I hand him the keys to the car and the account number to my 401k and pour a drink. When I say, yeah, that's kind of right, he lifts off the ground, literally jumping in excitement, and I'm taken aback by this. He's ecstatic. But then suddenly, I see it all for what it is too, as if for the first time, and it does feel worthy of leaping. The act, the result. How can any of this be real? Later, because I'm a sadist, I bring it back up. I'm compelled by his enthusiasm, by the newness with which I can now see all of it, by explaining it to a child who will one day put me in a retirement home. It's kind of weird, but also cool to think you used to be inside of me, but also inside of mom, right? He's in the back seat of the car. We're all here, our family of 4 that used to be 2 on our way to dinner. He nods and says, and that mommy used to be in grandma. That night, the generational work of all of it settles over him, and he wants to know which parts of him are from my family and which are from Sarah's. He draws a line with his finger bisecting his body. Is this side yours and this side mom's? The great bundle of it suddenly feels too much for me to comprehend, much less to explain. I avoid DNA. I search for some metaphor, a stew, a puzzle. You're you, I say, finally, hoping I sound like a wise monk stepping from a cave. And then, but you're also all the people who come before you. I try again. You're you because of all the people who come before you. But also, there's no one like you. Eventually, he's satisfied to go back to reading The Boxcar Children, and I'm left standing alone in the kitchen, thinking about all the lives in our skin.
That was awesome. Really.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, the thing, there's a delicious perspicacity in your writing that seems like you know, like kind of your sort of signature business. But I think part of it is you're one of the only interesting, psychologically healthy people I know.
It makes it hard to be a memoir writer when you've had a like really pampered normal life. I have no trauma to really draw on. It's hard business. I'm lucky that I found like these. I didn't mention the probably I buried the lead in my book. The diaries of my ancestor. The reason I think that he kept them in code was that he had lots of women and wrote about them all. So there were just lots of sexual encounters written in very terse, almost medical language. And so that's why it was in code. And that's part of what I'm exploring here.
It reminded me a little bit of All the King's Men at first.
Oh, that's cool. I love that book.
Oh, yeah. Where Burden is spending all that time going through Cass Masterson's diaries.
Yeah. Huh.
Well, you know, your story reminded me of a story a great friend of mine told me. She had planned what she was going to say to her son about reproduction and about sex and had it all planned out. You know, she's like, and I can do this. I have a PhD. It's no big deal. Well, what she didn't expect was that he walked in on her having sex with the father. And she jumped up and said, "Oh, we're just playing poking belly buttons. We always do this. It's so much fun." But the problem was he went around then for weeks poking people in the belly button saying, "Mommy and Daddy poke belly buttons," just like that.
That's very good.
Sometimes the cat really does fall off the wall, huh?
Right.
I forget which kids book. I think it's one of the like fudge books. I can't remember who wrote the Super Fudge, you know, that Fudge-a-mania, all those books. But in one of them, I think she basically plants the sex talk in there. So if you're reading the book to your kid, which I was, suddenly like the kid finds a book that talks about, you know, in anatomical terms, what happens, and takes it to school, and his mom comes in to tell everybody, give them the talk. So there's kind of no way around it in that moment. You're like kind of stuck there. You're too far into it to skip it. So it feels like a trap that she's laid for you to be a better parent.
That's super sneaky, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on the show tonight. We really loved your reading. Really.
Yeah. And folks, Bearwallow, an excellent memoir. I highly encourage people to order it or to get it from the library.
Thanks for having me on, and keep it up. I'm number 50. Is that what you told me? So 51 is coming.
Right around 50. Yeah. I'm not good at math, like the whole writer's thing. I was counting really quickly. So it was right around, like, give or take 5.
Okay.
So yes, thank you, Jeremy B. Jones, for coming on tonight. And next week we have another Carolinian. I thought you were gonna pick.
You were gonna wait for me.
Yeah, I was waiting for you, but it's gonna be John Hoppenthaler, coming from East Carolina University.
Sorry, Dan man. I'm used to being in charge. Anyways, thank you again. We'll see you all next week. Right. Good night, everybody.
Have a great night. Thank you.
Thanks.
Night.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.